And Tales, and continuing the series on literary movements. Today we'll do beat movement, and this movement originated in 1944, and like theatre of the absurd, it was also popularized in 1950s, and it remained active, these poets and the novelists, till 1960s, and after 1960 this movement also started declining. All right. So origin of this movement, if you talk, then it began in America, and particularly here at Columbia University, right? And who were the founders of Beat Literary Movement? It is these three persons who are called the founders of Beat Literary Movement: Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, and William Burroughs. Okay, so the roots can be traced to 1944, but it was not until the 1950s that these writers and other beats would be recognized as a movement and as a generation of post-World War II youths whose attitudes and lifestyles were far removed from typical Americana. Okay, so in absurdist movement, or particularly theatre of the absurd, we have seen that it is because of the World War II and Cold War, right, and the nuclear war that had just happened in World War II only, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It has actually created a sense of uncertainness and meaninglessness in the lives of people. That's why they were depicting the same in the dramas, okay, in their plays. And we have read about Eugene Ionesco, Samuel Beckett, Edward Albee. Now here we have Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, and William Burroughs, who have produced a similar kind of reaction in their literature, particularly in their novels and poetry. Okay, now who used this term beat? As we have read in the last video, that who has coined the term theatre of the absurd? Okay, it was Martin Esslin, right? Esslin. Similarly, here who coined this word beat? It is Jack Kerouac. Okay, Jack Kerouac used the term beat to describe both the negatives of his world and positives of his responses to it. Now, what are the negatives of his world? Of course, all these things that had just happened, right? These are the negatives of the world. And what are the positives? Let's read. So, beat implies weariness and disinterest in social or political activity. On the other, it was reminiscent of the beatitudes of the Jesus. Okay, what are the beatitudes of the Jesus? Declarations of blessedness and happiness uttered during the Sermon on the Mount. So, they are presenting their movement like the positive response to the social a degeneration, of their times. All right. Now, while certain measures of blissfulness, often drug induced, this you have to remember, may have applied to followers of the beat movement, so would feeling of disillusionment, bitterness, and an overwhelming desire to be free of social constraints. They want freedom because according to them they are chained in the traditions of the society, right? So they want freedom because the traditions, or the different we can say the norms or the rules that are being made in the society resulted into nothing. Okay, resulted into world wars. People have gained no sense of life from all those traditions, so they want to break free from those social constraints or from those rules, right? Now, the characteristics of these writers: experimental styles and subjects, including spontaneous writing. Whatever is coming to their mind, they are just putting down on the paper. Okay, without regard for grammar, sexually explicit language, obscene language they are using, right? Uninhibited discussion of personal experiences. So whatever is coming into their mind, what all they have experienced in their lives, they are just writing about it. And themes ranging from a rejection of American values and fear of nuclear war to sexual escapades and road trips. All right. Now, representative works of this movement that you have to remember. First is, of course, Jack Kerouac, On the Road. Kerouac is the same guy who has used the term beat. Okay. Now, William Burroughs' novel Naked Lunch and poems of Allen Ginsberg like Howl. Howl has been read as a representative work of this beat movement, and Gregory Corso's Bomb. So this you have to remember. Now, these are the representative authors, William Burroughs, and how you have to read, okay, for your examination. Now, this is his biographical details, where he was born, what he has done. So this you just go through, you need not to remember. But here the second paragraph is important, where they are discussing his literary output. Okay, so Burroughs did not start writing until 1950, when he decided to write a semi-autobiographical story, Junkie. Now this is the first work that is being introduced to you, that Junkie is his semi-autobiographical graphical story, right? These are the certain nuances that you have to keep in mind while reading. Now, without finishing the first novel, he began another in 1951. This one also somewhat autobiographical, titled Queer. Okay, this is his unfinished work, Junkie, and this is his another work, Queer. By this time, he had moved his family to Mexico to escape drug charges, and it was there that he accidentally killed his wife, C, by attempting to shoot a glass off her head. Now later Burroughs confessed it was John's death that gave him the incentive to pursue writing seriously. Now these excerpts are important, because if, with this you can remember him, right? Whenever there is some Sansani case thing, then you can remember the person for a longer period of time. Okay, this is a man who killed his wife, his name is William S. Burroughs, right? He has written Junkie, he has written Queer, but his most famous work is The Naked Lunch, right, which is a representative work of this beat movement, and it was published in Paris. And 3 years later, okay, that is in 1960, 61, 62, in the United States as simply Naked Lunch. So it was first published. So if there is a question that when it was published, right? It was published in 1959 as the Naked Lunch in Paris, but in United States it was published in 1962 only Naked Lunch. So the "da" was dropped in the United States publication. Now this book brought celebrity status to Burroughs, though mostly among the underground, and he went on to write several more books, plays, and film scripts, and to receive an American Academy and Institute of Arts and Letters award in 1975. So award is also important, right? So this is how you will read Neil Cassidy, you will read Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Gregory Corso, and Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg is also very important. Then we have, I think we should read Allen Ginsberg. So this is his biographical detail. Now his literary details are here. So he is famous for his trademark poem, which is your Howl. Just as Kerouac's On the Road was a quintessential novel of the beats, Howl was and remained the quintessential poem. Ginsberg's popularity was almost instantaneous after this reading, and his first collection, Howl and Other Poems, was published in 1956. Okay, when this poem was published, it was published in 1956 in the collection Howl and Other Poems. Now other books in a relatively short period, and Ginsberg's fame and infamy grew despite an obscenity trial for Howl, because we have just read that how their language was sexually explicit. So because despite an obscenity trial for Howl, he found recognition among the prestigious literary mainstream and was awarded a Guggenheim Fellowship in 1963. In 1969, he received a grant from the National Institute of Arts and Letters, and in 1974, a National Book Award for Fall of America. So this is another award that he has received for Fall of America, right? Now we have Jack Kerouac, we have Gary Cinder that you have to read. Now also you have to read these representative works. Berry Feast, it is a long poem by Cinder. Then Bomb, it is a poem by William Corso. A Coney Island of the Mind, he is your William S. Burroughs, okay, the man who has killed his wife with a glass. And this is the Dharma Bums, Howl. Howl is this poem by Allen Ginsberg. Let's have an analysis of this poem. The opening lines of Ginsberg's lengthy poem Howl, published in Howl and Other Poems in 1956, are some of the most recognized in 20th century poetry. You have to remember these lines also. Sometimes they may ask this. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn looking for an angry fix. So people are angry. His generation is angry and is destroyed by madness because they are unable to make sense of the world around them. The constant threat of war, because after World War II we have Cold War for many years, so all these things have actually destroyed this generation. We always have two options in our lives. Okay, it is right, either to focus on the physical things of our lives, or to focus on the cerebral things of our life. So when you are focusing more on your body, then you are producing things like this only. When you are focusing on your cerebral, on your mind, and there is certain spiritual element in the society as well, and in you also, then you will produce certain other things. So this society is completely devoid of spiritualism. This society is completely devoid of any divine thing. Okay, so they are more into materialism. So that's why these things, they have depicted the same in their books also. And this poem, coming back to Howl, this poem is dedicated to Carl Solomon, which is also very important for you right? Now, who is Carl Solomon? He is a lifelong friend whom Ginsberg met at the Columbia University, the university from where began the Beat movement. And Columbia University Psychiatric Institute in 1948. Howl is a three-part free verse lamentation. So it is a three-part, it's the structure of the poem, okay? Three-part free verse lamentation on the social and personal woes of post-World War II American society. Part 1 describes the despair felt by many individuals during this unsettling era, and Part 2 identifies social conformity, big government, and materialism as some of the causes for human discontentment and restlessness. And Part 3 is a series of statements directly addressing to his friend Solomon, praising true friendship and announcing the poet's feeling of victory over social control of his emotional and sexual identity. So, although there was a trial on this poem Howl, but this trial declared more popularity to this work. Okay, then another work which is important is Naked Lunch. Then we have On the Road, that you have to read on your own, and the themes that are prominent in this literature of Beat movement: disillusionment, right? Social non-conformity, spontaneity, and the styles that they have adopted is the cut up technique. Now the cut up technique, what is this technique? That if there is one page, now they are just cutting it right into 4 parts, or and some small snippets, then they are connecting these small snippets to see what meaning these snippets are producing. Okay, so this is their cut up technique. Then we have spontaneous prose, that what is coming into mind they are just writing it, irrespective of the fact that they are following any grammar or not, irrespective of the fact that whether these thoughts are making any sense or not. Well, continuous stream. Now we have contemporary idiom, that they have made their own idiom. They are not following any traditional statures of writing. They are producing their own thoughts and their own style. Then the literary variations can be found, the movement variations can be found in painting, which is your abstract expressionism. And in music also, we have many singers who have followed the same themes, of course, movies and all, right? And the hippies, a decade after the Beat movement was at the height, the counterculture movement, which began in the United States and spread worldwide, was represented by a loosely associated group of young people who call themselves hippies. You know, hippies, hipsters, who keep on going from one place to another. Now the historical context, you already know the historical context. It is the same historical context that have resulted in the theatre of the absurd. So the same historical context resulted in your Beat movement as well. So I hope Beat movement is clear to you. And see, if you don't have much time and you don't want to study all these details, at least what you can do is, after watching this video, just have a quick Wikipedia search, right? And make your notes of the important points like features, representative writers, right? And of course, representative works and details, minute details of these works. All right. So see you in the next video. Then we will cover the next movement. All right. Thank you so much.